Her lips still moved after her head was severed. Blood soaked the wooden scaffold, and when the executioner reached down to lift her hair, it came off in his hand. He had grabbed a wig. The head tumbled to the floor, revealing the truth beneath the illusion. An old woman, gray and frail, stripped of her final disguise. But she had once been the most beautiful queen in Europe. Mary Stuart was born a queen, crowned Queen of Scots at just 6 days old, and still ended up kneeling before an axe. How did that happen? She was raised in the glittering French court, fluent in Latin, Greek, and politics. At 16, she became Queen of France, widowed at 18. Returning to Scotland, she ruled with elegance, Catholic grace, and a charisma that lit rooms. Foreign ambassadors praised her beauty. Pale skin, auburn hair, tall and regal. She was royalty incarnate. But in the shadows, her cousin in England, Elizabeth Tudor, watched with suspicion. Because Mary had a claim to Elizabeth's throne. It all started with love. Mary fell passionately for Henry Stuart, a handsome nobleman with royal blood. But charm turned to violence. On the night of March 9th, 1566, while Mary was heavily pregnant, a group of conspirators with the involvement of her jealous husband burst into the chamber where Mary was dining with her secretary, David Rizzio. David was seized and dragged out of the room while Mary was held at gunpoint, with one conspirator reportedly pointing a pistol at her pregnant belly. Rizzio was stabbed 56 or 57 times, and Mary witnessed the entire savage murder helplessly, with her secretary clutching at her hem and screaming for help. Mary's husband, Henry Stuart, is said to have been jealous of Mary and Rizzio's relationship because of rumors that he had impregnated her. Henry died from strangulation or smothering shortly after a gunpowder explosion destroyed his lodging. His body was found in the garden. The relentless series of traumatic events pushed Mary to the brink of collapse, leaving her overwhelmed by grief and likely fearing for her own safety amidst the political turmoil. 3 months later, Mary married James Bothwell, the very man accused of her husband's murder. But what kind of queen marries her husband's murderer? Her decision was seen as desperate and controversial. Mary defended her choice as a political necessity to protect herself and Scotland, indicating a pragmatic, if pressured, mindset. Her nobles revolted. She was forced to abdicate, fled Scotland, and sought refuge in England. Straight into Elizabeth's trap. Nothing, not even the betrayal, the murder, or the exile, would compare to what awaited her there. After fleeing to England in May 1568, Mary was promptly taken into custody by English authorities. She was moved from castle to castle, always watched, never trusted. Her rooms were luxurious, but the windows were barred. She wasn't allowed to ride, to walk alone, or even choose her own staff. Mary experienced a loss of autonomy that was agonizing for a queen accustomed to power and reverence. In the room above, reading her letters, was Elizabeth's spy chief, Sir Francis Walsingham, a man determined to catch Mary in a single fatal mistake, because Mary and Elizabeth weren't just cousins. They were rivals. They were mirrors. Both women were queens in a male-dominated world that resented female authority. Yet their upbringings and religious affiliations set them apart. Elizabeth had grown up in fear, branded a bastard, nearly executed in her youth. Mary had been raised with ceremony and crowns, a queen from infancy, used to obedience and reverence. She was the great hope of Catholics across Europe. Elizabeth was Protestant, and in their eyes, an illegitimate child born of Anne Boleyn's sin. To many, Mary was the rightful Queen of England. Elizabeth knew it, and Mary never let her forget it. They never met in person. Their entire relationship existed through letters, full of flattery, barbs, veiled threats. Elizabeth called her dear sister. Mary, your affectionate cousin. Was it diplomacy? Was it manipulation? Or was it a faint echo of what might have been if history had been kinder? But the world they lived in would not allow softness. Every word could be treason. And then came the fatal opportunity. In 1586, a young Catholic nobleman, Anthony Babington, wrote to Mary in cipher, "If Elizabeth were dead, you would be queen." Mary wrote back. She approved the plot, and that was all Walsingham needed. He had forged a perfect trap. He had placed the courier, intercepted the letters, even decoded the cipher himself. He let Mary incriminate herself in her own handwriting. She had walked right into it. Mary, Queen of Scots, daughter of kings, mother of a future monarch, was now a convicted traitor. But even with proof in her hands, Elizabeth hesitated. She had everything she needed: the cipher, the signed letter, the council's backing. And yet, she waited. Signing Mary's death warrant wasn't just an act of justice, it was an act of regicide. One queen ordering the death of another, a cousin's blood on her own hands. For days, Elizabeth stalled. She paced. She fretted. She told her council she feared setting a precedent. If a queen could be executed, what shield did any monarch have? She knew what this would mean. Elizabeth ruled with calculation, yes, but also conscience. And on this matter, her heart and crown were at war. In the end, she signed it. And then, in a final act of self-protection, she tried to deny it. February 8th, 1587. Fotheringhay Castle. It was just before dawn, cold, silent. Mary, Queen of Scots, awoke knowing it was her final day. She had been imprisoned for nearly 2 decades. And now, it would end with an axe. She dressed carefully, deliberately. A black satin gown, a velvet cloak, and beneath it, a crimson petticoat. Red, the color of Catholic martyrdom. She wanted England to know. She died not as a traitor, but as a queen, and a martyr for the true faith. She entered the Great Hall. Over 300 spectators lined the wooden benches. Soldiers stood guard. Her jailer, Sir Amyas Paulet, gave the signal. Mary climbed the stairs without help. She stood before the executioner, a thick-set man in black leather, his face masked in linen to hide his identity. His axe was freshly sharpened. The executioner knelt before Mary to ask for forgiveness. "I forgive you with all my heart, for now I hope you shall make an end of all my troubles." She forgave him. She kissed her crucifix. She knelt beside the block, crossed herself and whispered prayers in Latin, and laid her neck against the block. But the final moments were anything but peaceful. The executioner fumbled. The first strike was badly aimed. It hit the back of her skull, splitting the scalp and cracking the occipital bone. Blood spurted across the block, soaking the executioner's sleeves. She screamed, a wet, guttural groan, and her body convulsed. The second blow hacked into her neck, severing sinew and artery, but not enough. The third blow, heavier, messier, finally detached the head from her shoulders. The room fell into stunned silence. Then came one final humiliation. The executioner reached down, grabbed her head by the hair to show it to the crowd, and her wig came off. Mary's head, no longer the youthful face of royal propaganda, fell and rolled across the platform, revealing her real appearance. Her scalp was thin and gray, mottled with liver spots, the skin slack with age. And then, a final grotesque touch. From beneath her skirts, a small dog emerged, soaked in her blood. Her Skye Terrier had been hiding the whole time. It refused to leave her headless body. It cried for her. Elizabeth claimed she never wanted Mary executed, that the warrant was sent by mistake. But Mary's death stained Elizabeth's legacy with blood. And in the ultimate twist of fate, Mary's son, James VI of Scotland, would become King of England after Elizabeth's death. The very woman she killed became the mother of England's royal future. 2 queens, 2 women born into power in a man's world. one ruled by calculation, the other ruled by heart. But in the end, neither could escape the sharp judgment of history or the axe. Her lips moved after death. Her dog howled in mourning. And the woman beneath the crown became a legend, a martyr, and a ghost that still haunts the halls of English power. The terrible death of Mary, Queen of Scots, continues to fascinate and horrify precisely because it was a clash of queens, religions, and nations, culminating in a brutal, drawn-out execution.